Good afternoon. I'm here, Deborah Porter. I am your mom coach. And we're going to talk about something that probably a term that we don't use really often, but we're going to kind of break it down and we're going to talk about the differences and the similarities and kind of how we can learn and what we want to build for ourselves. So I'm happy to be here to support you today. I am supporting you today and really available anytime to support you with home life balance. We're very familiar with the term work-life balance, but for moms specifically, and especially for right now, home life balance is something that we're all having to figure out where those lines are. So if you're joining me today, please say hi, give me your name, or go in and give StreamYard permission to show your name so that way I can, I'll know who's here and I can say hi. So happy to have you. So today we're talking about home life balance. What is it and how do we get it? So as I mentioned a few minutes ago, I've got my notes here because I don't want to miss anything. I want to be real specific about what we're sharing. And you guys know me, I don't wait around for people to join. If you're here, we're going to get right into it. If you're not here, you'll watch in the replay. But most of us are very familiar with the term work-life balance, right? So the definition of work-life balance is appropriately prioritizing the demands of work and your personal life while not allowing your work commitments to cross the line too often. We're real familiar with that, right? We've all had to be able to find the work-life balance. Here's what's happening now. Here's the problem. The problem with that equation is this: work gets one side and your life gets another side. But guess what? How many different things are involved in your life that now you're having to split almost down the middle, right? People are almost talking about splitting it down the middle. So work gets a piece, and then you've got your home, your house, your family, your kids, yourself, your own personal development, your goals, the chores, the kids, right? Some are still virtual learning. Some moms, dads are still working from home in some capacity. Some offices have shut down and said, we're not going back. Like, this is the new norm. And so here's what I want us to do today. I want us to talk about home life balance, especially for moms, because there's so much more that is, that we feel at least is our responsibility now to handle with everybody else being at home. New York Times says that 80% of the things that are going on in our homes right now is on the shoulders of moms. The entire mental load, having to balance all of that, people looking at you every time their stomach growls because they're hungry and they happen to be in the house and you happen to be in the house, right? So what we want to talk about today is, what is home life balance? Is it a 50-50 split? How do I do that? And what is the benefit of me doing that? So there's an intersection, right? There's an intersection of our home and our lives. And if you're a stay-at-home mom, okay, you're living and working in the same environment. So having some clear-cut boundaries, some places where things are either no longer your responsibility or there is a clear way that thing is going to get done without it having to fall on you is really important. So what is balance, right? We've talked about what work-life balance is. But for the purposes of our discussion this afternoon, here's what balance is. It's not 50-50. It's much like we talked about several months ago when we talked about marriage not being 50-50. There are times that marriage is 60-40, 70-30. So what is balance? Balance is a condition in which different elements are equal or in the correct proportions. And that's where we're landing today, where different elements in our lives, home and life, are in correct proportions. And how do we do that? How do we determine those correct proportions? How do we get that in our homes and working in our homes? Glad you asked. So when you talk about balancing, what are some of the things that we're balancing in our homes? Let's just start there. What are some of the things we're balancing in our homes? It's a lot. It's a lot of things we're balancing in our homes. So some of those things include cleaning up and keeping up with all of the stuff, right? Just all of the stuff that makes our home and our lives and our families what they are. So decluttering, organizing, replacing broken things, having things repaired, just keeping up with all of the stuff. That's one piece of kind of home management or balancing or the order of things in our home. Another piece is managing of resources, income, budgeting, tithing or giving, saving for college, paying tuition now or in the future, right? So that's another piece of kind of the order and the balancing of our home responsibilities. Family routines, who has to be where when, morning and evening schedules and routines, chores and responsibilities. Okay, that's just the home side. So then you have the life side. And when I say the life side, I mean you, the individual, not you, the mom, not you, the wife, but you, the individual. What are some things that you're balancing in your life? Your own goals, your dreams, your self-care, your personal development, whether it's reading, learning, journaling, you may be taking classes or courses, the physical, mental, and emotional development and health of you, because we know it is nobody's responsibility to make you happy, right? That is our individual lifelong responsibility is what do I want? What makes me happy? How do I place that and put that and get that in my life? So again, today we're talking about the difference between work-life balance, which is a term we're really familiar with, but everything's kind of turned around now, right? Home is work, home is kind of school. So we're talking about what is home life balance? What does that mean for us? How do I get that in my life? How do I get some type of balance? Does balance mean 50-50? What is balance? Balance is a condition in which different elements are either equal or in the correct proportions. That's where we're landing. What are the correct proportions? Is it 50-50? What is the balance? Because how does everything get the best of me? How does each part of my life, benefit from the best of me? Okay, so what we want to talk about is, moving into how does balancing the home and balancing your life, where does that land? How do we divvy that up, so to speak? So here's what we want to do. Today, this is going to be like a 2-part, maybe a 3-part series. So today, what we're going to address is getting balance in your life, right? 6 different ways. I'm just going to cover 6 points, 6 ways to get balance in your life. Next week, we'll talk about creating balance and order in your home, because the work-life balance scenario for me is not accurate, because your life is multifaceted. So it's for us as moms, especially right now with everything that's going on with, some form of hybrid or virtual learning still happening, working from home, people being at home more often than normal, there is a home life balance that we've got to get a handle on, because if not, there are, ramifications and effects from it not being a particular balance, and everyone's balance is going to be different. But we're going to talk about 6 different areas that I want us to think about when we're talking about home life balance. Here's the first one. Accept that you can't do it all and that you shouldn't. There's no reason why you should be doing it all, especially if there are other people in your home, especially when there are so many opportunities to insource and outsource, and especially because we all have the same 24 hours in a day. Our resources may be different, our energy levels may be different, but there is a cap on that. There is a cap on resources. There is a cap on our energy. So there comes a time where you just have to take a deep breath, right? Take a deep breath and know that you've done what you can do and that will be enough for today. Hey, Audra Christie, I've been wondering where you were. Thanks for doing this. I'm ready to absorb and implement. I appreciate you. I'm glad you're here. I've been thinking about you lots. So we're talking about accepting that we cannot do it all, giving yourself the grace you would give your best girlfriend if she called you completely frazzled and said, I just can't do another thing. What would your response be? Girl, take a break. So the challenge is we have a hard time giving ourselves the same grace and love and affection and care and concern that we give to our friends. So accept that you can't do it all and that you shouldn't be doing it all. You can only do what you can do. And at that point, there's another day or there's an opportunity for someone else to step in. All right. So that's number 1. Number 2, think about managing you instead of managing your time. Now, I know time management is important. I know it's a real thing. And I know it's something that, we're all, finding that balance, right? In managing our time. But here's the difference in managing your time and managing you. Many times when we're trying to implement time management skills or tips or practices, we've got all this stuff that we've got on our plate and we're trying to fit it into some kind of time management routine. How about instead of doing that, how about you manage you? You manage your choices. You manage what you're saying yes to. You manage the things that are going to be taking up your time so that you're not then having to, take this calendar of X amount of hours and stuff all this stuff into this somehow. So manage you instead of just managing your time. Manage, your power of choice, what you're saying yes to, and what you're politely saying no to. Okay, that's number 2. Here's number 3. Do the math. You have to do less of something in order to do more of something else. So what am I talking about? So in order for me to exercise, I have to get up earlier. So I can't get as much sleep as perhaps I would like. I would love to sleep till 10 a.m. I can't sleep till 10 a.m. because there's stuff that has to be done. I have, my business I have to work on. I have moms that I'm coaching that I have to spend time with. I've got, family, a home, a husband. But I've got to I've got to make the time for myself. And so that means I get less sleep so that I can get up so that I can exercise, because that's something that I do for me. And so do the math. What's the more important thing that you've got to do? And then it's easier to determine, well, what's the less important thing that can either wait, be done by somebody else, or perhaps is not that pressing at all. Okay, so that's number 3. Here's number 4. And y'all already know how I feel about this one. Got to say no more often, because saying no to the correct thing frees you up to then say yes to the correct thing. Many times we get that reverse. We say yes to everything. And then those moments and places where we need to be able to say yes to ourselves because we're too packed with too much stuff to do, we're unable to do that. So the Bible says, let your no be no and your yes be yes. So it doesn't have to be a whole bunch of apologizing behind it, or I really wish I could. Oh my goodness. No, I'm unable to help with that right now. Let the silence sit for a minute. People will figure it out. They'll figure it out. And, it may be, as I go back to number 3 really quickly, just for a second, when we're talking about doing the math, and I was talking about having to do less of one thing to be able to do more of something else that you either want or that's more important. That might be temporary. It may not be permanent, right? It may not be that you're permanently removing or doing less of something, but for the moment, for the time, you'll have to do that. Determining what is less important frees you up to do the thing that's more important. It also applies to the company that you keep, right? There are people that are going to pour into you and there are people that are going to pull from you. What does that balance look like? How are you balancing the giving of yourself, but also opening yourself up and turning your cup up so that you can be poured into? Okay, so that's doing the math. Y'all already know how I feel about no. Here's the next one. Put you in ink on everyone's calendar, not just yours. We look, as moms, we struggle enough already with just putting ourselves in ink on our own calendar, as opposed to putting it in pencil and just erasing us and moving it because somebody needs something or something else came up. So it's not even just about putting yourself in ink on your calendar, but it's about letting your family know, listen, Sunday afternoons, 3 to 6, even if I'm in the house, I'm not available. Not available. Everybody needs to write it down. Y'all, I love Cozy. It's a family app, family calendar app that I love because it's a shared family calendar. So nobody can say they didn't know. But find a way to be able to communicate to everybody what those blocks of times are that you've set aside for yourself. That's non-negotiable. There have to be these moments that are set aside that are completely non-negotiable, because if they are constantly and consistently negotiable, then that means you don't have a self-care regimen. that means you've not already determined where and how you're going to turn your cup up and get filled today. Okay. So putting you in ink on everyone's calendar, not just yours. I happen to like Cozy. I think Cozy is a great calendar that the family shares. The other thing is every single day, there should be moments that you have to yourself. Ideally, 20 to 40 minutes, whether it's in the morning, whether it's midday or in the evening before you go to bed. For me, I'm better in the morning because by evening, I'm kind of, one eyed open. So think about for you, though, what does that look like? Where am I carving out this time that is just mine, just for me? That's important for everybody to have, and it should be consistent, or at least as consistent as possible. Okay, so here is the last point that I'm going to make for today when we're talking about the life side of home life balance. Be purposeful about your life, right? All of us need to be purposeful. And what do I mean by be purposeful? Always, there's always another thing that can be done. There's always another load of laundry that can be washed. There's always another dish to put in the sink. There's always, another place that I need to take somebody or another commitment I can make on a committee. But begin to really be purposeful about how you're spending your time, the choices you're making about availing yourself to others. And I'm not talking about this from a selfish perspective. This really is about self-preservation. And it's about deep self-care. It's not about like the quick mani-pedi I'm going to go get. I know, look, I love a good mani-pedi like everybody else. But there comes a time when that's not really satisfying me. That's not filling me deeply in a way to really put me in a position where when I show up for other areas of my life, I am my best. A manicure doesn't do that for me. But spending time by myself does. Spending time in my Bible does. Spending time journaling does. So what are those things for you? Okay, so real quickly, I'm just going to go back and review these. Again, today we're talking about the very common term that we already know, which is work-life balance, and really kind of flipping that on its head a little bit because many of us are working from home. So home is where everything is really happening right now. There's hybrid and virtual learning still happening at home. So we're talking about a home life balance. What is it and how do I get it? And balance being a condition in which different elements are equal or incorrect proportion. How do we put home and life and work in their proper and correct proportions for our lives? And these are the 6 ways today that I'm encouraging you to bring balance back into your life. Next week, we'll talk about how to bring balance and order into our homes. The first one was accept that you can't do it all and that you shouldn't. Not your job to do everything. Can be handed out to somebody else, can be given to someone else to do, can be insourced, outsourced. There are things that are yours to do. There are things that other people can do. We got to know the difference. Manage you instead of using so many of these time management tips. Here's the difference. Managing your time means you're trying to fit everything that you've got to do into a certain time frame, right? We all have 24 hours in a day. Nobody gets more. Versus managing you and using your power of choice of the things that you choose to say yes to and the things that you choose to politely decline. Number 3, do the math, right? You have to do less of one thing in order to do more of something else. Sometimes that's not permanent, it's temporary. Sometimes it is permanent. So for me, I have to sleep less so that I can get up earlier to work out, which means I should be going to bed earlier. I don't always do that, but I should be. Okay. The next one is I'm not even going to get into this one because you already know how I feel about the word no and how that's such an important word in our vocabulary as moms. Listen, the New York Times says 80% of everything that's gone on lately because of us being at home more, the managing of schooling, and still everything else in the home. Every time somebody's stomach growls, they're looking at you like, what we eating? I know it's 2:00 in the afternoon, but what we got? Right. So there comes a time when you just have to say, you know what, that's not my thing. That's not mine to carry right now. There's food. You got to figure that out. Okay. So being able to freely say no, politely say no, so that people know that it is not your responsibility or job to fix every situation that comes up for people. Listen, our children learn when they do. If everything they need and every problem and situation that comes up for them, we are Johnny on the spot. Listen, you would normally be on the other side of town at work and they would be at school, as opposed to being two doors down and you hearing that they're having a problem with something the teacher's saying, or maybe the teacher is reprimanding them. Don't bust in the door and fix that and solve that. Under normal conditions, you wouldn't even be around. You wouldn't even know about it, right? So let's allow our kids some freedom, some autonomy to begin fixing these things in their own life, working that muscle of being able to resolve conflict, have difficult conversations, even with people that are in a position over you. You can coach them in how to do that, but don't be so quick to send that email off to the teacher. I heard what was going on. I heard my son. Let them handle it. Coach them, but let them handle it. The next one is be purposeful. Be purposeful. Be purposeful about the choices you make, what you're going to do, what you're going to give yourself to, what's going to get your time, as opposed to just quickly responding to everything and then realizing, I should have backed out of that one. I shouldn't have done that one. And then lastly, put you in ink on everyone's calendar. Pick the day and time, or days and times, that you are focusing on some self-care and doing some things that are going to make deep deposits into you, which will allow you to show up as your better, more authentic self. That needs to be, everybody needs to know, Sundays from 3 to 6, mom, even if she's here, she's not here. She's not available. She's not available because that is her time. Okay, so today we spoke about home life balance. What is it? How do I get it? We spoke on the life side today, how to bring balance back into your life. Next week, we're going to switch and talk about the home side of that equation and how to bring balance and order into your home. And then we're going to talk a little bit more about, what is this balance? Is it 50-50? Is it 60-40? How do I strike the balance where, what does the definition say? Where everything is in its correct proportion. What does that mean? What does that mean for you? What does that mean for me individually? So listen, y'all know I love coming in and hanging with you. I don't see any comments other than Miss Audra. So I'm going to go ahead and end for the day. If you have any questions, if you have, some concerns for your own home life balance, I don't really know what that looks like for me. I need some support around that. Send me a message. I've got a new program that I'm going to be releasing in March. I'm going to talk more about that next week when I talk about the home side of this equation. But obviously, we don't have to wait till March. If you know you need support now, I'm here to support you. But in the meantime, be thinking about this whole dynamic of home life balance versus work life balance. And how would that philosophy, or how would that actually support you in your home in creating this correct proportion for each of the things in your life, so that you are not then getting the leftover scraps, if there are any, right? We all have the same 24 hours in a day. How do we maximize those? How do we delegate some of the things that's on our plate so that we can be our absolute best, maximize those hours so that we can show up as our unique selves? All right. I enjoy being with you guys. Any questions? Hit me up. Let me know. Other than that, have a great evening, and I'll see you soon.